Welcome to Marketing with Confidence. I'm your host, Marianne Amies. We're going to be talking all things digital and online marketing for business owners and marketing professionals. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by your digital marketing, be sure to listen along and you'll hear tips, interviews and more that will give you the confidence to create marketing you love. Welcome back to the Marketing with Confidence podcast. I'm so excited to be joined today by Sarah Spence. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. I've wanted to have you on for a long time as you're, such an expert in your field. And I'm so excited to have you here today sharing all your expertise with our listeners.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Look, to kick off, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you came to carve out your space as a content copywriting expert?
Sure. Well, I guess I'd start with that. I currently have the pleasure and challenge of leading a pretty fast-growing content marketing agency. But 2 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. I was freelancing. I was a freelance copywriter with a business that was growing, but I didn't really know where I wanted to take it or even if I wanted to have a business. I was just kind of holding things together with a bit of sticky tape and subcontractors. And I took the plunge to actually hire my first employee at the end of 2020. And it's been quite a roller coaster since. But I've always, in terms of being the kind of expert, I guess, I've always been a writer ever since I was little. And I've definitely spent quite a bit of time honing my skills as a copywriter when I was traveling overseas in my 20s. And it then just seemed like the logical step when I had my first kid to get into that freelance kind of copywriting career because we had no money. My husband had a very inflexible job and I needed a way to earn an income that was going to be that kind of family-friendly-ish income. So even though I had the copywriting skills, what I then added to that was a lot of learning around strategy and SEO in particular. And I started to grow the business mainly through a kind of referral network and just, I wasn't in it for what it is now. As I said, I just really wanted to do good work. And I think that's the thing that had the greatest impact on me carving out a space, even though I feel deeply uncomfortable about it, but being seen as a bit of an expert in this space was because even from those early days, I just really struggled to take people's money and just be a copywriter or just take a brief. Perhaps it's like the stubborn toddler that still exists inside me, but it just didn't feel right. And I honestly struggled to sleep sometimes thinking that, a small business client who we all know, because you and I both have small businesses, we don't have heaps of money. And that they would say, hey, we'd like you to write our website content, and this is what we want you to say. Or here, we want you to write 10 blog posts, and this is what we want them to be about. And I knew I could do that and I could create great copy, but the strategy behind it was the stuff that I struggled with because I was kind of like, well, if I just write those 10 blog articles, like how do we know that they're actually going to deliver you any value? And so I started to basically say, look, I'll do the copy, but can I take a look at the strategy or can we talk about the goal of these and kind of do that more content marketing piece on top of the copywriting? And I think that's what really kind of helped me grow. A, it grew the business, but B, grew in our client size that we weren't just writing something and then kind of sending it out into the ether and not taking any responsibility for the results.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like a real duty of care conversation. And I think you and I both know in our, marketing and content digital industries, you hear so many stories of small businesses being burned, someone coming in, promising them the world, them paying a hefty fee and getting absolutely nothing. And I think for you to both recognize that there's like a duty of care, I don't want to just tick this box for you. I want to make sure that the box is ticked and then there's something back at the end for you and that you're maximizing it. That's obviously so deeply caring, but then to almost be able to spin that into its own niche of combining, seeing copywriting as bigger than just the ticker box, and how can I make that a whole strategy of content and the impact that can have. I guess that's where you probably found a sweet spot that other people just weren't seeing at that point.
Yeah. And I think as well, because and I've been part of, some great copywriting communities, and so many copywriters do, we tend to all be relative introverts, and they do struggle with imposter syndrome and confidence and all of those kind of classic things. And how that then plays out is in not necessarily being able to actually provide as much value as you would otherwise.
Yeah.
Like being able to somehow find the confidence in yourself to say to a client, actually, no, I'm not going to write you that blog article about wedding flowers, because actually there's no point, because you for instance, you're never going to rank in Google for that, because your lovely small florist is just not going to be able to compete with the Floriads and whatever else.
Yeah.
And so maybe the better way to talk about your wedding services is actually to, maybe create a beautiful ebook and share that with local wedding venues, or it's to post or get photos from your clients who have had weddings with you and get the photos from their weddings and then share them through social media. So it's just, thinking about it in a broader way than that, but having the confidence to even do that. For me, I found that confidence because I refused to not be able to sleep. I wanted to be able to sleep, and therefore I was like, I can't write this blog on wedding flowers and take this money, because it's not going to do anything for them.
And as I said, that sets you apart, because as we know, people play, I think that the area I've seen it the worst is with websites, because business owners don't understand what it takes to build a website. Probably 12 years ago, I started helping clients with websites, and then started hearing what they'd paid for the website. And I was like, what? How did you pay, 20 grand for what is essentially the simplest WordPress site I've ever seen? And it was businesses playing to the lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. And obviously they have no problem sleeping, because they were just playing to that lack of knowledge. And I think, again, that with what you were saying, those blog posts, it is a lack of knowledge. Like they do believe if they write the one article on wedding flowers, they're going to get on the front page, or they're going to, it's going to have some big impact. But, as you've said, and as we know, it's such a big web of content infrastructure that's going to move the needle, not just one-off random, I popped this up once and now I should be a success story. And I think, having the integrity to actually care about those outcomes is, obviously, again, why you've grown so much so fast.
Although sometimes I wish I maybe didn't care so much.
Same.
Maybe
Could be much richer.
Yes, exactly. But then also, I do like my sleep, so
I know, but couldn't we be sleeping on some island in the south of France?
I would totally
sleep better over there. Even if we were doing, dodgy practices, surely we'd sleep better. Just that European sun. I know,
because it's also like when we don't particularly work with small businesses these days. We're an agency. We cost too much basically now, which I totally get. But it used to be my favorite thing to do, to basically tell small businesses that they didn't need what we did.
Oh, I know.
Because, they'd come to us wanting XYZ, and I'd be like, no, literally all you need to do is you need to start, posting every day on your Google My Business profile, or you need to start sharing more consistently on socials, or whatever it was. It's like, you don't need blogs. In fact, your website messaging it's adequate, but nobody's actually really engaging with you there. It's like, let's just I don't want to take your money. And you'd see them kind of go, what? Oh, okay. And funnily enough, though, that's often then that's what did convert clients, because then they were like, right, well, you've actually told us the truth now, so how can we work with you? What do you do that we can actually use, or what do we need to do to get our ducks in a row so that then what you do is going to be valuable? So,
which is, which is such a, better place to come from as a business owner, and only sets you up to have a more sustainable business. But again, that integrity piece to actually feel good about the work that you're doing. So tell me, Sarah, as the CEO of your business, how do you balance working on and working in the business? Balance.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't. I wish I did a wee bit more, but no, it's such a constant struggle.
Yeah.
Trying to balance I feel like it's like 4 different things. There's the balancing the need of our team, balancing the needs of our clients, balancing resolving issues, so things that are potentially going wrong or have gone wrong in the past, and trying to innovate at the same time. It's I've come to the conclusion, I've actually, in recent weeks, I have been time tracking like a mofo. And it's something we get the team to do, and I've done it myself on and off, but we really saw the need for, actually, we all need to be hitting the mark with gathering that data of what do we spend our time on. And it's actually been a little bit demoralizing to see how much time I have been tracking, and realizing that I'm actually doing about 4 different jobs as the CEO. So it's no wonder that I'm really tired and survive off coffee. I love that WiseUp's, one of WiseUp's values is coffee, because I feel like that should be mine too.
100%.
But things I guess I've tried in the past, and I know have helped me. So, you're always going to have to work in the business as a small business owner, but working on the business, I've sometimes got into a relatively good rhythm with things like having, 1 day a month completely blocked out in my diary, and just spending the day with some big A1 posters and Sharpies and just doing stuff. And the other one that I did try for a little while, and I really want to get back into, is going and having breakfast by myself once a week. Yeah. And taking a printout of, which I know is probably not the best for the environment, but it's not a lot of paper I'm talking about here, but taking a printout, of the business financials, of our objectives, of maybe the time tracking or whatever, and just looking at something off the screen that's going to help me feel a bit better about feeling in control. Yeah. But the dynamics just all shift so quickly. It's hard to kind of continue with those practices.
Oh, 100%. And I think the problem solving, especially, I feel like that's the one that always upsets the apple cart. Like you might still be doing a little bit of client work, and then, you kind of know the business factors that you need to keep your eye on. And then it's the problem solve, it's the staff changeover, or it's even sometimes the new exciting prospect. And then you want to dive lots of information, lots of your time into that, or it's some other operational issue. And I think that one, for me, I find the most relatable, as where you kind of go, I've got all the Friday, like it's a really clear day. And then you're in the trenches. Yeah. You're like, where did that day go?
And even if you have, this happened to me a few times, even if you have the day set aside and you keep it clear, and you finish up your week, let's say on a Thursday afternoon, and you're ready. It's been all of the micro decisions all week long that mean that by the time you come to Friday, you actually can't think expansively. No. It's very hard to put yourself in that mindset because you're trying to recover. Yeah. Maybe I should be doing it on a Monday instead of a Friday. That might help.
I started doing Wednesdays. So Wednesdays I work from home, and I do like my personal development. I do my business development. I do my podcasts. I do my coaching, like for clients that I'm coaching. And then I do my, like the coaching I receive. So every Wednesday, and it sort of became born because I made Friday is my Wise Up day, where I'll just work on Wise Up. But no, Friday became cleaning up the messes day. And week after week, you're always going to trade the on the business for the in the business, because, client is the priority, the team is the priority. And so then I sort of shifted things around and made it Wednesday. And, again, sometimes things pop up on a Wednesday and I have to get deep into, client or problem solving, but at least it's early enough in the week that maybe then I can recover some time later in the week. But this is one of those challenges, I think, that we're constantly juggling.
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever solvable either. I mean, it would be lovely to be, but I think it's about actually, some of the best advice I got when I was starting out this whole journey was from a friend of mine who has his own agency that has grown incredibly in Canberra, and they're a digital agency as well called RD Consulting. And the CEO there is Colin Anstey, who's a very good friend of ours. And he used to, like, on his drive into work, he and I would have a chat about once a month, I think it was. And I was really struggling as the business was growing. I was really struggling with just how chaotic it was and how out of control I felt. And, you know, there's all these opportunities, but I just, like, my mental health was really struggling to keep up with it. And he said to me, the sooner that you can feel comfortable with the chaos, the sooner it's going to feel better for you, because ultimately you're never going to solve the chaos. If you are a small business owner, or you are, you know, in a business that's either growing or it's declining, there is always chaos. And so the sooner you can kind of shift your perspective on that and feel comfortable with that as the norm and let it not overwhelm you. And I know something you and I have talked about privately about, you know, reframing that as being beautiful chaos. The soon, because it's just about acceptance, right? That you don't constantly get caught up in the stress of it, because the stress is always going to be there. The chaos is always going to be there. So it's just, you've just got to work on yourself. It comes back to that boring stuff about, like, mental well-being that we all just know we should do. But
I know, self-development, self-care. But I love that. And you're right. We definitely have spoken about that. But I think, finding the calm in the chaos, and I guess the chaos is also what pushes you forward. You know, without it, if everything was just stable and mild, we probably wouldn't push forward, because we just sit in that comfort zone. Well, this is comfy, this is nice. So it is necessary. What about morning habits? Do you have certain morning habits that set you up for success?
I do. I have a very, like, strict morning routine, which I don't always strictly do, though. But my definite setup for success is I get up before the kids have woken up. So I've got an almost 9, almost 6-year-old. The almost is really important to them, of course. And I get up before they get up, and I go for a walk, which generally kind of is when it's dark, and then the sun rises while I'm walking. And I live in a beautiful part of the world on Dark and Dunge country, here at Avoca Beach, and it's glorious. It's very cold often, but at least, you know, it's beautiful. So I do that. I come home, I make a cup of green tea with lemon, and I make my husband his morning coffee. And then I go and have a snuggle in bed with the three of them. And then I get myself ready and I come to work. And if that all lines up beautifully, then that feels like it's a good setup for success. The percentage of days when that does all line up perfectly is relatively small, but, you know, when it does, it's amazing. And it's just all about just getting myself in the right mindset, I think, for what are often very, very busy days.
And it's that filling your cup, isn't it? You know, like getting out in nature, spending time with family, like it is all a nice, fill your cup experience to start your day. And I'm such a sucker for staying in bed. I said it so many times on this podcast. I'm sure people, like, we know you like to stay in bed. But on the days that I do actually, like yesterday, I got up just before 6 and I went and had a walk with a friend, and it is amazing. Like, I do feel so much better, and I can face so much more in the day, and it is such a special way to start the day, I think, getting out in nature. And it's sort of like I need to continually remind myself that last little hour of sleep, it's not actually as great. And, usually I'm doing it in small bursts because I'm waking and then I'm snoozing, and I would be so much better off just getting up and getting out. But it's, telling yourself, do the hard things.
Yeah. But once you get into the habit, of course, then it's not hard so much anymore, but it is. No. I kind of tried to, because, when you become a parent and when you're, busy as a business owner, or even in a big role, or whatever stage you're at, really. I think particularly when you become a mother, you tend to lose sense of who you are as an individual. And I did some work recently to try and figure that out for myself again. And I realized that kind of 3 core things that are part of who I am and make me feel good are movement, self-care, and connection. And that I've just realized that morning routine it covers all three of those.
Absolutely.
So that's probably why it feels good and why I also don't find it as difficult to motivate myself to go and do it.
Oh, awesome. So let's talk more about content marketing. Why do CEOs need to pay attention to content marketing? I guess, how does it differ from all the other marketing priorities that they hear about?
Sure. Well, from my point of view, and of course I'm probably biased, but it really is, it's the core of everything. It should be the core of everything. And of course, content as a word has a couple of different definitions. Of course, it can mean like content, like to feel pleased and satisfied. But in the context of marketing, content is basically anything an individual or a brand creates for consumption. So by that definition, content marketing and content marketing strategy, it should be the center and the core of all other activities, because, you know, content is present in everything that any brand or business ever creates. It could be, you know, the website or blogs or social media, paid ads, influencers, emails, you know, events, even contracts, like even, you know, legal contracts are still a form of content. And so I feel like if a brand really is serious about marketing to its customers and clients, then it needs to have a solid content marketing strategy at the core. And that's, you know, one that sets the vision and the mission for the marketing of the business. And then it makes it really easy for all the other marketing disciplines and channels, whether that's people internally at the business or other agencies, to work seamlessly and collectively toward that singular vision. So there are, of course, like content marketing strategies and planning that you can create content specifically from, but a content marketing strategy in and of itself should be that core aspect that defines the vision and the mission, sets the success metrics, and looks at everything holistically. So I really feel like there's been a shift in recent years, particularly in big brands, toward viewing, you know, the marketing strategy as actually being a content marketing strategy, because it takes it's that next like level up of that overall perspective that then each of the channels can execute against. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think in some ways, like the mass marketing easy wins have kind of been deprioritized. You know, I think back to my traditional marketing career, you know, I just have a multi-million-dollar budget to throw around on TV and magazines and mass market. But now we kind of, you know, they're not recognized as effective as they were before. So I think taking it up that level to look at the content and to look at what do we want, you know, what do we want to be known for? What do we want the messaging to be? And then how can we leverage all these different executions like what you just detailed? You know, how can we leverage those and entwine them so that they support each other? Like I think we said it earlier, it's like a big web to me, you know, a web of interconnected channels and assets that are all trying to funnel back up to the one or two objectives. And I think you're right that it's an overarching, almost sitting above marketing is what is the content plan.
It's a spider.
Then be able to drive it.
It's like Charlotte in the web. You know, it is the spider is. I mean, maybe we should think of a better analogy, but it's, you know, she controlled in that classic childhood story of Charlotte's Web. She controlled the whole web and what it ended up looking like, etc. And then, you know, her babies came along and they did their thing, but it was all still aligned. It was all still aligned to her vision. Yeah. And that's, where I very much see content marketing. And, you know, for anyone listening who's either in small business or in an in-house position or freelancing, it's really not that big of a shift, I don't think, because if you're planning out strategies to, you know, do a paid ads campaign for a client, or you're, you know, doing their website or whatever it happens to be, it's about just asking those kind of bigger questions of, well, what are the overall goals here? Yeah. Who is this overall audience? Like you've asked me to, you know, do a paid ads campaign. Well, how does this fit into the broader picture? And if the clients don't know what the broader picture is, or it hasn't been defined, then there's an opportunity to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk a lot about target market has to come first. Whatever you're doing, target, like, unless you know who is best suited and who is the most lucrative for your offer or your service or your product, you almost can't do anything else. And you're right, like a paid ad strategy is nothing if we don't know who we're trying to get in front of. And again, when I think back of traditional marketing to digital marketing as well, that target market is now the biggest opportunity, because before we had no idea if we were getting to the right people. There was no way to measure it later. We knew that such and such demographic were likely to read that magazine or watch that TV program, but we really had no data that could affirm A, that they do, and then B, that they did. It was such loosely gathered and largely interpreted data that we would get after campaigns, where I think, that target market piece. And again, if you know your target market, then you can make your content objectives around what they need from you, what they want from you.
Exactly.
Yep. So I touched on data then briefly, and I do love data, and I think you're a bit the same as me in that respect. What are your tips, I guess? How do we explore the intersection of a data-driven strategy and human-centered content?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question, and it's even though it's probably going to be a long-winded answer, it's actually a very simple answer. We use a Venn diagram to explain this to clients, and it's been adapted from my friend Matt Fenwick's content framework. And what we talk about is how quality content, if we're going to define, what does quality content look like, and how obviously it's different for every brand and business, but quality content is content that is created at the convergence point of what your audience want to hear. And you can gather that information these days from data-driven insights. So you can look at what they're searching for on Google. You can look at what content they are following on TikTok and Instagram. You can look at the search volumes or the number of views, for instance, on TikTok that certain hashtags have. You can look at what people are searching for on LinkedIn and how they're interacting with that content, etc. So you can gather the information about what your audience want to hear from data-driven insights. Then you need to also consider, what does your business actually want to say?
Yeah.
And finally, where you can, as a brand, provide unique value. And that's where the human-centered aspect comes in from my perspective. So if you picture 3 big circles of this Venn diagram, it's that overlapping point, that convergence point of what your audience wants to hear, what your business want to say, and where you can provide unique value.
Love that.
And, this plays out that, like, if, for instance, you find that your audience search for a solution to a problem that you can solve for them, and, you do the necessary analysis and research to figure out if you can actually even rank for that keyword in Google, or if, you're likely to come up in hashtag searches for that on LinkedIn or whatever. So that's aligning to the audience and the business needs, because the audience are looking for a solution to a problem, and it's a problem and a solution you can solve for them and provide to them, which is what your business wants to say. But ultimately, there's no point in creating that content if it's just like everything else out there on that topic already. So whether you're doing a blog or a video or a series of social posts, it needs to be unique to you and the value that your brand can provide. And that's where you need to create content from your own human experience that talks to the human experience of your audience.
Yeah.
So we love data. Data's great. But just like AI and all the other tech anyway, it still needs a human head and heart to review it and then decide on the best way to bring it to life.
Yeah.
So there's my long-winded answer to the simple answer of the question.
Oh, no, I love that. I really love that. And it's funny, I recorded a podcast a few weeks ago about the power of personal brands within marketing now. And I think, when you talk about that human-centered content, and I know it's different for big brands to small brands. And in fact, what I've been telling small business is it's a USP. It's actually where you can beat a big brand, is that you have a human story. You can create human-centered content. You can connect on a personal level. People buy into you. And that actually is how you can compete with a big faceless, inhuman brand, or a brand that's trying to be human, but really there's no hard point of contact. And I think, that power of connection. And I think partly some of that changed post-COVID as well, that people, and through COVID, we didn't want to just connect with our brand. We wanted to connect with people. We felt isolated, and there's just shifts across everything. You look at celebrity, we used to see celebrity from the outside, and we used to, buy the glossy magazine to hear the whisperings. Well, now celebrity talks directly to us. We follow them. We get insight into their life directly. And it's opened up a different, point of connection to what it was, say in our mother's eras, where celebrity was on a pedestal, and you only knew the whispers or the outward facing stuff. And I think it's the same with brands, the brands that have become more approachable, more honest, more connecting, and are looking at that. I love that Venn diagram, are looking at that, what that intersection is for them of those key factors. I think that's where you've got the power to amplify your message with a smaller budget, or with faster, not needing as much time to get it out there as well.
Yeah. But I think, a problem that small business owners and freelancers definitely I have seen come up against is that they don't necessarily want to be their brand. No. They want their brand to be their brand. But to that, I would say there's a time and place for that. Like, look at Apple. Apple was Steve Jobs to begin with, and then it became Apple, and then it became Steve Jobs again, and now Tim Cook. But there's other brands that when they very first started and when they were growing until they reached a point of critical mass, their founder story was very much intersected with their brand. And I think that's where that whole, comparing yourself to others in your sector and all of that jazz just is a recipe for disaster, because you've got to go at your own pace. And I think the more that small businesses, can be leaning into the people part of it, we are, it isn't business to business, it's people to people. Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
And there will come a point at which, hopefully, that you can develop the brand into being more of a brand and not so much about you. But I think there's a time and a place for that. And
I agree. And I think it's that, that don't compare your day 1 to their day 100, that big brand that now is faceless and can trade off its name and off its logo. But how did it start? And I think I discussed this the other week as well. Like, even brands like, say, JS Health, like at the start, it was very much about her. Now they can move away from her as the core element now, because the brand has, taken off, has its legs, is flying. But in those early days, that person that talking about my health, my problems, I wanted a better way, I wanted something different. That's what you connect with in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And,
it's the same like Irene Falcone with Sans Drinks, fantastic success story of a non-alcoholic drinks brand.
Absolutely.
And drinks wholesaler, retailer. She's still present, and her marketing is so effective, because Sans Drinks now has a brand and can operate as a brand. So she's able to leverage that on one side, but on the other side, she's able to leverage herself within the brand. And her paid ads, social paid ad stuff is incredible. It's often these long-winded like explanations of why she's decided to shelve a certain drink, or why she's bringing in this other drink, or why she's gone on this journey. And I'm such a sucker for it.
And it's always her. Like it's always her. I actually know Irene from my corporate days. Yeah, she was our media buyer when I was with Revlon. This was like probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And, then she was such a genuine person. And I think she's leverage that through her marketing. Like when her ad comes up, she just seems like your friend telling you the truth. It's not, she didn't lead with that Sans. I've just forgotten the name. That's terrible.
Sans Drinks.
Thank you. I was going to say Sans Alcohol. Sans Drinks logo. She led with her. She led with her story, her wants, her needs. Took people on the journey of growing it, from small to big. And even now, she's bought back Nourish Life, or
I think she's
relaunching into a competitive space because Nourish Life has, dissolved as such. But again, telling that story, building that connection because people had connected to her. She is the brand. And I think there's a massive, massive power in that and recognizing that tool in your belt. And if you don't want to because you're not comfortable or because maybe it compromises something else in your life, maybe you're still in a corporate role or whatever it might be, you almost need to find somebody who can be the face of your brand or then go really hard into UGC and get lots of content creators engaging with your brand and creating content to have that connection point and that tangible, what is the human element of this brand?
Yeah. And, you said it before as well that we are all, we through COVID particularly, and it shifted things, we're feeling disconnected and we are, at like humans, particularly in the Western world, are reporting highest levels of loneliness that they ever had before, than they ever had before. And, we are more connected digitally than ever before technologically, but we all feel more lonely. And there's a really, whilst it's not obviously I guess a true human relationship, we're much more likely to engage with a human who has eyes and a face and everything because that can fill up that little cup of, of loneliness just that wee bit.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah.
Oh, we really went down a whole different road there, but I think it's so interesting when you think about content and just how it really is, it really is everything that people are putting out now. And I think coming back to the web, thinking about how that web needs to be designed and built and what's at the center of it. So thank you so much for all your generous insights and expertise today.
Very welcome. It's been so nice chatting, as it always is with you, Marianne. But yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode. If you don't want to miss one, make sure you subscribe to the show in your podcast app. And if you love it, be sure to share it with friends and colleagues who you think could benefit from increasing their digital marketing confidence. Want more? Head to marianneamies.com to find out how you can work with me directly, to reach out to have me speak at your event, or to grab yourself some free resources.